Thanks for coming along and thanks for listening. I'm going to just launch straight into Goodhouse 63. Did anybody come along to Goodhouse 63? A few people, yeah. I recognise a few faces there, yeah. And yeah, you guys, of course. Thanks for coming along. We had a lovely day. So here's the project brief. The family home, 3-bedroom, 2-living study, and it's a flat block close to services. You can read all of that. Pretty typical, the sort of briefs that we get. It's a matter of, part of the brief as well is working out what the client considers to be sustainable. And that includes economic sustainability and budget, etc. Because pretty sure when I start to show the beautiful photographs of this, it's going to be, oh my gosh, how much did that cost? Well, the house will be the house is very expensive, particularly to build at the moment. But it was a sustainable option for these clients. So it's just important to remember that. So here's the old house, and this is the triangular block. You can see it's got a main road here and here. So it's pretty odd. And the old house is facing west. Awesome. So that's what the old house looks like. We're not going to dwell on the old house. It never feels good to knock over a lovely old house, particularly when it's a home. But we had a discussion, as we do with most clients when there's an old house involved, what we would need to do to that old house to make it as sustainable as possible, and you'd probably throw a similar amount of money at it as a new build, and it would still be heavily compromised. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So then that's the way that, so this is sort of, I guess, a little bit of a graphic of our site evaluation, which is actually a super important part of the design process. We've got cold winds coming in from the southwest and also the northwest, which was odd, but coming in off the sea. We've got hot winds coming in from the northeast. The winter sun, as you can see, is focused on the top of the house there, around the side, which really isn't particularly useful. It's getting blasted from the rear of the property and the front of the property in summer morning and summer afternoon. So the house is just really not operating in sync with the environment, unfortunately. We've got a privacy issue, potential privacy, which is similar to a privacy issue, I'll point out, but that's just architectural speak. And so there's some units getting built across the road there, and so we had to really consider the overlooking issues from them. Vehicular access on 2 sides, which was kind of good, and then we've also got private open space. So it's actually didn't feel like a very big block with the way the house was, because the private open space was split into two parts. And this was the most utilised space outside, and we always look, when we look at an existing house that's getting knocked over, how it gets used, and we find that little spot that's got the table and it's clear where people are going to be sitting. And guess what? It's the north-facing little courtyard. So that's the view from the top now with the new house. So we annoyed council, like we tend to do, with the orientation of the house really not facing the street. But you know what? That was fine. We've got perfect solar access with this house. Because they've got their own land in front of the north and then a street, it means that there is just no overshadowing at all from north. So we're able to utilise north perfectly and create their own garden and view from the house. And then the angle of the house to the south boundary, we simply enclose that as the garage and storage area. So if we look at the floor plate, you can see we often go for a very slender pavilion. That really increases cross ventilation and increases the amount of, the amount of solar access that gets into the house. It reaches right across the floor plate. You can see it's all living area downstairs. The main view is out onto their yard and onto their deck, and then there's this little sort of back door, which is the front door here. And when you consider how that works, there's cars, there's plenty of space for cars. I put those in just to show what sort of space is left over. So it's their shed as well in there. apart from all the kit and batteries, and there's bikes and all sorts of stuff in there, which is very useful. These are just some spots, people walking past, large people with red outlines, and they were looking. If they were looking sort of through the front door, you can see it's actually quite private from that entry. And then from the inside, we had to, rather than just sort of allow the view to sort of go anywhere, we've used these sort of spine walls throughout the design to help frame that view and increase privacy, because it's actually a very exposed site on that road. And then it was super important with the landscape design that the perimeter gets some pretty heavy landscape screening. Upstairs is 2 bedrooms and another living area sitting in that position. So that sort of orientates you with the house. Floor plate itself, and yes, I'm spending a fair bit of time looking at the design because it is actually a key element in sustainability, and it's been mentioned today already. One of the main levers that we've got to pull is scale of the house. If we can get that down and have a house designed as big as it really needs to be and no bigger, then that is going to help with our carbon footprint. It's going to help with our economic sustainability as well, of course, particularly when you're spending $4,000 a square metre these days. So we look at the floor plate. We've got the private and the public space. So through the front door into the living area, that works really, really seamlessly. And then you've got the main bedroom, study, and the pantry in behind the kitchen. Laundry is sort of part of the garage. You've got a services nook over here. On the east side of the house is your veggie patches, and then this is all your living area through to the north, which is lovely. And same at the top. Circulation space, pretty pleased with that. Like it's borrowed circulation space. There's only one little hallway there to the main bedroom that is just circulation space. That's all that does. Everything else, it's about having the right amount of space between bits of furniture, so getting to that level with your briefs, sizes of tables, etc., and making sure that there's enough circulation space and options to get to rooms as well, not just one in and out. Ventilation is just miraculous with this particular house. Those blue arrows, I've never been able to get wind to actually follow arrows on a diagram, but so this is not what that is. This is actually what happens. So there are all the opening windows in the house, and it really does allow for the breezes, the predominant breezes that go through the house. So venting this house actually works so beautifully. That's the solar access at 21 June. So that's what we're getting at about midday onto the floor. So you've got to imagine that tracking around during the day. There is very, very little need for the boosting using the underfloor hydronic heating. It's just so, like we were there the other at Sustainable House Day, and we've had some cold snaps up until that point. Then they're nowhere near putting their underfloor heating on. They're super comfortable just with the amount of sun that they're getting in there. If you get 2 hours a day, on a cloudy day, it blows through. If you get in all about 2 hours a day of sun onto that floor, that's set. Particularly with the seal of the house and of course the insulation. Stacked ventilation with this one as well. So passively we can open up the top windows and we can have the coolth coming in from the low level windows down at the bottom. We've got the little gardens that are right up against the house. We've got the microclimates that are created there, so we can replace that hot air going out with coolth coming in. We've got an evap cooler with this one, so we can close the upper level windows and blow the hot air out of the lower level, or we can blow it out of the middle level. So this is a ship that needs to be sailed, and so the clients really understand how that works. So they've got a few heating and cooling options that they can use, but 90% of the time it's passive heating and cooling with this place. It's pretty typical now to see underfloor heating and waffle pod slabs. We generally do that. It does create some separation between the slab and the ground, so we don't get that thermal coupling and heat disappearing into the ground. It uses less concrete, which is good for embodied energy. And underfloor heating and cooling, it's a bit of upfront cost, but it is basically free to run with a very modest PV system. Big, oversized, double 140 stud walls. vapor permeable barrier, of course. Cladding is on battens on the outside. So our external walls are, about 200 wide, and they're giving a R4, 4.2, depending on the cladding that you would get. You can see the timber structure for the floor there, and on upper level we always use the Hebel power panel, so the aerated concrete sort of panel, just to give a little bit of solidity. And we're doing one at the moment where we're actually putting screed down and tiling upstairs, and that's going to give a decent amount of thermal mass upstairs as well on a lightweight floor. So that's something to consider. Upstairs, so there's the floor, etc. UPVC windows. I haven't found any better value than those for the performance. Insulation, that's standard insulation, and it's thick, but it's put in properly, and it's checked, and it's double checked, and it's, so that's mentioned as well. It's all great to have these specifications on paper, but unless it's done properly on site, then it's wasted. That's some pretty important kit there. So that's the highest energy consumer in the house. That's our hot water and our underfloor heating. So if both of those are running, that would be close to about 3.2 kilowatts, which that's both running. The heat pump for the hot water is about 900 watts. That's running at about maybe 20 to 30 minutes a day. And then the underfloor heating we set on timers for about 4 hours a day. So if both of those are going, it's about the same energy consumption as a blow heater. Then that'll sort of run. So, a low energy consuming house means that you don't have to have an enormous PV system and battery. Sorry, Sean. The client process, I just wanted to put this up to point out, I guess, that part of the ingredients of developing a good house is it's the whole process. It's the design, documentation, it's the choosing the right consultants, suppliers, nominated trades. There's a million pieces in a house, and the decisions that need to be made, there are many. So I guess as part of our role as architects, I think, is to pull all of that together, to orchestrate that and make the decisions not based on pure economics or ease of build, but to actually do that with considering other things like carbon footprint, those sorts of things. So there's a lot of talk at the moment, which is great, around construction and construction details. That's an element of it. There are lots of other things to consider as well. So how's the performance of the house? Here's the big gag. Every year I do this. It's good. And again, here's a few other bits and pieces that I guess I'm just trying to widen the lens a little bit and say, yes, it's a house. Yes, it's made up of bits and it doesn't use much energy, but there are so many other elements to sustainability and regenerative design that make a difference. So, increasing biodiversity in the beautiful garden design, and the feeling you get of waking up and going down into a light-filled space with fresh air and opening the windows, that sort of thing is so good. Lifestyle, and then efficiency as well. On-site solar, car charging, minimal energy use, connecting garden community. Aging in place was a big one with this one as well. So it's lovely to be able to sort of craft something that meets all of those needs. So that's it from the road. As we go in, there was similarly, the clients were pretty keen on their original had nods to the 60s sort of home. So breeze blocks are inside as well. There are no windows to the west or the east in this house, so you come in through the front door. There's the lounge room, the beautiful massive window of the pines in the background, their view of their yanard, and all of those banksias are all growing up and covering that fence now. It's fantastic. Kitchen, pantry in behind, dining, big doors opening onto the deck. Beautiful landscaping, using the elements that are part of this sustainable design. The tank is a beautiful sculptural element in the tank. And there's a Corten steel veggie patches on the eastern side of the house. Really contained and really accessible. And that's the western view. So it's sort of the facade of the street. So we all love this house. We want to live there, but the clients won't let us. So but yeah, it's a really beautiful house, and it was a lovely process and a really good outcome for the clients.